Welcome to Real Estate Beat. I am Denise Smith. I am your host today, and I just want to let you know that I have an exciting buyer coming to you. She has a lot of good questions for you, and I just want to see if you could just listen today so that you can open your ears so that you can buy real estate. So I'm going to let you know just how easy it is for you to purchase real estate. So continue to watch us today. I'm here with Nadira, and Nadira is actually a future home buyer, and she will be buying real estate real soon. And she has a few questions for me, so I'm gonna let her go ahead and answer the questions that she would like to ask today.
Okay, thank you so much for having me. My first question is what you would recommend for someone who is looking to get into their first home?
The first thing they would want to do if they would like to get into their first home is to get pre-qualified. Find a bank or a credit union or a financial institution that would be able to help them purchase the property. So first I would say get together your paycheck stubs. If you're salaried, you need a 30-day paycheck stub. Put together 2 bank statements because the bank statements will show that you have the money in the bank to purchase the property. And then they always want to see W-2s because if they have 2 W-2s, then you could verify the last 2 years that you have been gainfully employed.
I've heard about programs that can help me get into my own home. Can you tell me a little bit how I can find one?
Yes, there's all types of programs. Right now, there's so many first-time buyers that are looking for real estate that they have programs for the city of Oakland. If you're looking for the city, I would suggest that whatever city you would like to purchase in, you would want to go and look in that city to find out what programs that they offer. Because each city should offer a program for first-time home buyers. Also, the banks have programs as well. So the cities have programs, the banks offer programs, and then there's also nonprofit companies that also assist and help you with identifying different programs that can help you. I know of several programs that first-time buyers can gain access to, and the banks will generally know the programs, the city will know the programs, but there's all different types of programs available.
Okay. I keep hearing about this opportunity to flip houses and that could be a way that I could make money, make a lot of money, and then get myself into a really big house. How realistic is that?
Well, not to talk about any one person, but I have been watching some things on television that say they indicate that they're get rich quick. Buy real estate, turn them around, and make all this money. Well, as an investor and an investor for a long time, I've been in real estate for 30 years. I love real estate. Real estate is my life. But you really have to go into it as a business. And if it's too good to be true, it is. If you find a property and they say it's very, very low and you can get into this property and then you could turn around and sell it later, I would say you would want to be very, very careful. Okay. I'm very concerned. I always indicate buyer beware because if the property is worth maybe $40,000, they say that you could buy the property for very, very low, then you want to check that property out. You want to make sure that the electrical, the plumbing, the foundation, the roof, everything is in working order. Because not only will you get a good deal, but you're also going to have to maintain that property. And there's a lot of hidden costs in property sometimes. So the get rich, flip the property fast, quick, I'm not really for those. I'm for slow and easy, and I'm for just being very cautious in your first investment.
Okay. You just made me think about the option of purchasing a fixer-upper. And how good an idea might that be for somebody?
Well, for a first-time buyer to purchase I've heard people call them all kinds of things, fixer-uppers. I've heard them call me fix-me-upper. I mean, I hear all kinds of names. But I would really be concerned because, yes, once again, if they need work, you want to make sure that you get a licensed contractor to be able to view that property and make sure of all the details because there's a lot of hidden costs. And sometimes I'm also an investor. I've purchased real estate. I've helped people to buy real estate. But the important ingredients in real estate is disclosure, disclosure, disclosure. It used to be location, 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 but now it's disclosure, disclosure, disclosure. What that means is that every seller selling the property has to disclose everything they're aware of that's wrong with the property. But if it's a foreclosure, the banks are selling the properties. The bank never lived in the property, so they don't know what's wrong with that property. So you want to be very careful, because if the licensed contractor goes in there and sees that there's some things that need to be taken care of, very important things, there's a cost also, that goes along with that maintenance of that property. So termite inspections are really important, because you don't even hear the termites. You don't see the termites. You walk into the property and you would never even know they're there unless you get a licensed termite inspector to go and look at that property, so that they can make sure that if there's anything that's wrong with that property, that you know that, so that when you go to sell it, that you're clear and there's no hidden costs, and you don't get into what they call a money pit, and before you know it, you've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you have your sweetheart, and you're fighting with him or her because of the fact that it's really the property that's the problem.
Okay. And so then that makes me wonder what I would do if I really want to get into a home and not be house poor.
That's a very good question. I know a lot of people that have moved very far away because they wanted their mini mansion. I don't believe that that's really important. I think that everybody that's purchasing real estate today should really identify what their goals are, what their aspirations are, what the reality is for them and their family. If it's just you, you'll have different needs. But if it's you, your sweetheart, and a child, then you're going to have family needs. So you really have to get together with that individual, or yourself in some cases, and make a decision on what are your priorities. Do you want a big house on the hill? Do you want a big house where you have a lot of bedrooms? Or do you want to live in a better location and get a smaller house that maybe you and your family can grow into?
Okay. And so I would assume that out of that conversation is where I would determine what my priorities are. But do you have any suggestions as an expert on how to prioritize what you want? If you want your location, if you want the size, how to determine what would be best?
I always say follow your heart. That's my best. I've sold hundreds and hundreds of houses, and I just believe that every buyer should follow their heart. And what I mean by that is that you really have to write down all the pros and cons and things that you really want out of this house. Do you want a backyard? Is a backyard really that important because you have a child? Or do you want to wait? Your child cannot even walk right now. So do you want to wait 5-6 years, and maybe your next home you could get a larger backyard, something like that. I think that you really need to just talk to your partner and talk to yourself and say, well, okay, maybe it's a condo. Maybe I want a place that has zero upkeep. Maybe you're never home.
That's nice.
Yeah, zero upkeep. Zero to no maintenance, no yard. You don't want any, major things that may come up later on. So a condo might be better for some people that don't want to, maybe they travel a lot and they're never home. They might want a 24-hour doorman because of, in a condo, maybe you can get a 24-hour doorman. Maybe that's more important. Or maybe that you might want less bedrooms, and because of the fact you'll get a better location, maybe you'll choose a smaller house rather than a larger house. Don't always go for the mini mansion up front. Let that be your 5th or 6th home. Don't let it be the first home. Understand that this is just your stepping stone, just to start you to begin to what you're going to end up with later on.
Okay. And so then I want to know, if I go into a home knowing that I'm not planning to stay there because I have a bigger vision or a bigger dream, how long should I plan or expect to be in that home, that starter home?
They usually say to start in your first home, they usually say 3 to 5 years. 7 years if you really like the house, but generally 3 to 5 years. I always say that you might say 3, but 3 years goes so fast. Before you know it, it's 5. Before you know it's 7. Before you know it, you're in there 10 years. So you want to find something that you really know that you can grow into a little bit, but don't go for the mini mansion at first. Go for the house that's large enough for your family to live in.
Okay. And then can you share a little bit about if I were interested in transitioning after getting into my first home, transitioning into potentially making money doing real estate or selling homes, how I would do that in a healthy way for myself and for my family?
Well, first, you would be very satisfied with the first home, of course.
Yes.
And know that you're able to pay that mortgage, because you see, housing is a mortgage, principal and interest, property taxes, fire insurance. The bank requires that you have fire insurance, and you want fire insurance on that property in the event that property burns down. So there's you have to be very careful with all of your expenses. So first, you're very comfortable with the principal and interest, taxes, insurance, and then you're comfortable with the PG&E, the water bill, all the needed expenses for that property. Once you feel you're comfortable, and even if you're a 2-person family, you want to make sure that perhaps you could pay that mortgage on one income. In the event that you get laid off, in the event anything could happen, where you are now just the sole person making that mortgage payment. So you want to be very comfortable first before you go to buy another property, step out there and get an investment property and generate income for yourself. I would say be very comfortable in what you have right now.
Okay. Do you see a lot of people, it seems like there's a progression where people start in their first home, they get into a larger home as their family expands and as their resources expand. And then there comes a point maybe when their kids leave the house and they're ready to downsize. So do you have a little bit of information about that?
Sure. We call them empty nesters, where they've had families for a long period of time. All their kids are in college and they don't need that large house any longer. Yes. There's a program actually for people that buy in the same county. They could keep the same property taxes that they had for that larger home. They could just go to the next property and keep that same property tax base. Where that's important is that their expenses won't be based on that new sale price. But I would recommend for empty nesters, they have to decide, and that's again where they talk to I believe a very good real estate agent, and they make sure that if they want to sell that property, not always do I recommend selling property. I might say keep the property and maybe move and maybe rent that property and then move to another property so that they can, downsize. But if they decide they want to sell that property, they really have to soul search once again. That's when they really have to decide on, what are we going to do with this property? Are we going to leave it to our children? If so, or what percentage of it's going to go to the children? They have to really decide, because not always would I recommend them to sell it. They might want to keep it in the family, maybe, and I always recommend putting it in a trust or something like that, because otherwise they could have that family that property in the family for years and years later on, for 2 and 3 generations.
And then that leads to wealth building for families.
Yes.
And so how does purchasing a home contribute to wealth building, and how can somebody deliberately build wealth for themselves, whether through real estate or elsewhere as a business owner?
Well, I think that real estate is definitely, in my opinion, and it has been for me because I am an investor and I've been investing for many years. I believe that everybody has an opportunity to purchase real estate, and I believe that that is the number one way to build wealth. I realize that other people talk about a lot of different other ways to build wealth, but I think real estate, in my opinion again, is the number way to build. The way you build wealth is that you have to buy property and then just stay in it for a while. And then once you keep it, and the property generally will appreciate. Yes, we have had in some past years, we've seen the market actually decline. which in California, we've never seen a declining market. We always said that in Texas they decline, not in California, but we just had this happen right here in California. So with the market declining, we have declined some of our wealth. However, if you still own property today, you still have a piece of the rock. You still are able to write off that property, and the Department of Real Estate indicates I can't give tax advice nor legal advice, but I would always recommend for you to talk to an accountant so that you can make sure that you get the information, so what part of that property you get to write off, because that builds your wealth so that you can sustain for a period of time, that even though rents are going up, housing is going up, you're in a house where the mortgage, hopefully you get a fixed rate, because fixed rates are always the best, and that hopefully your mortgage payment will always be the same. And you do not use the property like a lot of people did as ATMs, where they kept going to the property every year because the banks kept saying, oh, you could travel, you could send your children to college, you could do all these things. And then what they did is they would go to the bank and they would apply for another loan, and then the next year they'd apply for another loan, and before you know it, they depleted all of their equity in their properties. And then when the properties decline, that's how they get into this, what they call underwater, where the values are a lot less and the loans are a lot more.
Okay.
So they have to be very cautious. But that's the number one way to build wealth.
How do you recommend, or what do you recommend someone do if they are in a situation where they're in an upside down or underwater in their mortgage?
Well, a lot of people are upside down right now because of the economy. But I don't ever get discouraged because of that. What I recommend to people would be to always contact your bank. Find out what your options are with your bank. Sometimes people have lost their jobs, so they haven't been able to pay their mortgages. And when they're not able to pay their mortgages, they sometimes tend to not even call the bank. But I always recommend call the bank. Even if you're in trouble, call the bank. Do not run from the bank. Call the bank and let them know that my property is declining in value, and I'd like to know what can we do, because there's some banks that will work with you and actually reduce your mortgage. They'll actually reduce your mortgage payment, and in some cases, if they can't help you, they will tell you ways or offer ways. At that time, maybe a short sale, maybe a deed in lieu of foreclosure, something like that. But that would be the way. I would highly encourage to contact the bank and find out what the options are. And then if they talk about short sale is just another way of saying that the bank will agree to accept less than what the property is owed on the property. So for example, if you have a $100,000 mortgage, there is a possibility that if somebody was willing to buy the property for $50,000, they might accept it, even though they owe $100,000 on the property. And so they might consider a short sale.
Would you recommend that somebody who's looking to purchase their first home look for short sales or purchase a short sale?
I would recommend that they would look at any properties on the market right now, because short sales are okay, foreclosures are okay. But sometimes foreclosures, you don't really know what you're getting because of the fact that you cannot get an inspection in some cases. They'll just tell you to buy it sight unseen. So you have to be real careful with foreclosures. For short sales, you would want to make sure that if the people are leaving, you want to make sure that they're leaving in a good situation, because you never know what's wrong with that property until you get your inspections. So short sales might be another avenue, but I would just say look at the open market so that you could see what's available. And you want to work with a good real estate broker that knows the area.
I've heard from some friends that the houses are not staying on the market very long in the Bay Area. So what's something that I can do to make sure that I'm coming in strong as a home buyer?
Yes, it's true that the houses are not staying on the market that long. However, if you want to really make yourself a person, a good candidate to purchase property or be competitive, then you really want to get pre-qualified to make sure that you're pre-qualified, so that with that offer you have a strong letter of approval from a bank that says this person is approved for this dollar amount, and that would keep you competitive. But there's a lot of investors coming into the market right now, and what's happening is that they're actually buying the property for all cash, and that's kind of hard for you to compete with. So when they're coming in all cash and you're coming in with a 5% down, you know, they might choose the all cash over the 5% down. So you just want to keep yourself very competitive and make sure that you've already gone through the bank, got pre-qualified, so that you can have a strong letter of approval when it comes to purchasing property. And you, with your purchase contract, we call it a blank check. You have a loan approval. And not just what's written on the paper. You want a loan approval that's been based on your income and your credit.
Okay. And then, how long can I expect for it to take for me to get into a home? I'm very impatient and I want it now. So how long will it take me to get into my home?
Oh, you're like every young lady in America. I want it now. But it's a beautiful thing to want it now. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. That means that you are excited. That means that you're motivated, and that means you're committed. So I like that. And what that means is that, but you got to be patient with all those great attributes. And being patient is that you know that just because someone might say, and you might hear in different areas, that you got to buy now, the values are going up, I'm going to lose and miss my opportunity. Never slow to be slow to and be a little cautious before you make that step. Because if you buy a property and it has all this work that needs to be done that you did not anticipate, and you're like, want it now, it might not be always the good thing, the best thing to do. So you want to be very patient and know that your house is waiting for you, and that you just put offers in it and work with a good real estate broker, and know that, you know, every time you write the offer, that if this is not for you, then it's not going to be accepted. If it is for you, then it will be accepted. But even at that, you might think initially that you want it now, but then once you do all your inspections, you might say, I don't want that property. I don't think this is good. And that's why you don't want to work, you know, haste makes waste. So.
Okay.
Yes. For the business, you had mentioned, you know, just for the business opportunity, a lot of people want to profit, and you said that in the second part of your question, the business aspect of it. I always believe being a business owner is the key, because that's what I was taught. I do believe that, and you can work real estate to actually become a business. If you decide that you have made your first opportunity for real estate, you bought your first house, for 5-7 years, you're satisfied, everything works well, then you can then think about buying investment property and creating a business. So in creating a business, you'll be able to make profit. You'll be able to buy a 4-unit building, put minimal down, and generate income for those 4 units. So you can actually do that and create a business for yourself and generate income at the same time.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, of course. Of course. You said you had a little one too, a 4-year-old.
I do.
And so with your 4-year-old, usually when I work with people in purchasing real estate, I always ask the child, what is it that they really want? And it's amazing to me what the child can tell me what they want. And also, children also have a great wealth of information. Like even watching their mother and watching their father and seeing different things that happen in a house, they might say to you, you know, different things that you might, you know, feel like, wow, I never even thought about that. So I think you should include your child in the different things that you're doing, so that they'll always remember when they, you know, when my mommy and daddy was buying a house, this is what they did and this is how they did it. And just ask them questions. I've had people that I've sold houses. I've had 10 houses in one family that I've sold to. And their kids they started out where they were 3 and 4, and now they're in college. And it's amazing to me to watch them, because they sat around the table and now they're in college and they're telling me, I'm ready to buy my house. And, you know, and to me, that's a blessing. So children, if you lead them, they will follow, definitely.
Okay. I have, I really am interested in thinking about ways that my son, like you're saying, can be involved in what's going on and that he can be a participant in everything. So,
Okay. Okay.
so what do you have any ideas about particular activities that we can do with him to get a sense of what he wants? He likes conversations, but maybe some activities that would give us a sense, because he can't necessarily come on all the tours or be in the office when we're speaking with people. But
I would tell them to draw the house of
Okay.
his dreams.
Oh,
Just
that'd
draw
be
it.
fun. Okay.
Tell him, and what would you like to see in your house? Put it on paper, draw it. We're going to give you crayons, we're going to give you pencils and pens and paper,
Okay.
and then go ahead, draw the perfect house that you would like.
Oh, that'd be excellent.
And
We're gonna do
that's a
that.
fun project, I know, for most children, but that includes them. That makes them included in the process.
Okay.
Now, we had a caller that called in, and they had asked about reverse mortgages.
Okay.
And the caller wanted to know, is reverse mortgages, is that a good way to go? What a reverse mortgage is that it is when there's a senior citizen, they're over a certain age, it's over 62 years old, and they are on a fixed income, and they want to take money out of their home. And they have different options that they can do that in. They could either get one lump sum. What they would do is they would appraise the property, and then they would decide on giving them one lump sum, or they can give them monthly payments. That's how reverse mortgages work. Now, reverse mortgages might not be good for everyone. Reverse mortgages might only be good for a certain group of people, maybe that have no options. They have absolutely zero options. They have no resources, zero. And that might be a good way to go, but like every loan program, I would say check out every option, because the reverse mortgage also requires that they sell the property in the event that the person passes away, or if their demise, they require that property to be sold. So they have to make sure that if they're not going to be able to will it to their heirs, they should know that, because they may want to will it to their heirs. In some cases, the law just changed that the heirs now can purchase the property. But what I've noticed is that a lot of heirs cannot purchase property. They're not able to, they don't have the financial wherewithal to do it. So understand that anytime a reverse mortgage is to take place, that they know that they're going to perhaps have to sell that property. So that is not an option to actually inherit that property. This segment has been a wonderful segment on real estate. I want to thank you very, very much.
Thank
Nadira,
you.
good luck in your purchasing of real estate, and I know that it's going to create wealth in your family, and I know it's going to be a great opportunity for you.
Thank
I really
you.
appreciate it.
I'm so
I wanted
glad
to
be
tell you
here.
too, oh, it's just a blessing. She has a young family. It's a beautiful to see that she's wanting to purchase real estate. She is trying to improve her wealth. I hope you all are trying to do the same thing. Invest in real estate, and if you have the deep determination to succeed, you will not fail. Continue to dare to dream with me, Royal Realtors and Loan Services, Denise Smith. Hope you have a wonderful time purchasing real estate.
Thanks.
So it's been a